Hi parents, I'm teacher Annette from Preschool 2, and today I'm going to talk about the learning activity for today, Tuesday, week 3, and I am going to talk about the social emotional domain activity. I thought this one was really important, not just in the classroom but at home, because it talks about making rules, setting boundaries, but not just making them, but also helping your child to understand what they mean. So every Telamon Head Start Center in Michigan, I'm not sure about other states, but I know in Michigan, every center, regardless of teacher, classroom, age group, we have the same 3 rules that are posted in all of our classrooms in English and Spanish, of course. We have always kind, I'm sorry, I always want to do a direct translation from Spanish. Be kind is what it says in English, or siempre amable. Be safe, ser seguro, and care for your space, cuidar de su espacio. And the reason why these are such simple rules, like maybe you've seen these in the centers or you've heard them, and you're wondering, well, those are not really rules, those are just guidelines. And exactly, because at this age, you never want to give a child more rules than the number of years they are, at least up through preschool and kindergarten. Kindergarten might be a bit different. I know that they don't necessarily have rules posted in every kindergarten classroom. It depends on the school or the teacher, but the rule of thumb is to really just keep it simple and use those as general reminders. And we'll talk about why they're so simple and just not very specific, because I know a lot of the times you might be hearing from teachers, especially in Telamon Head Start or any other Head Start program, that you need to state expectations clearly. You need to tell the child exactly what you want them to do, exactly what their boundaries are in positive terms. So maybe you're wondering, well, stay safe. Be safe, that's not specific. Be kind, that's not specific. Care for your space, well, what does that mean? And we'll talk about that in a second. But first I'm going to go over the activity that is given today. So you may have noticed that the activities for this week are divided into younger and older preschool, and that they weren't for the past 2 weeks. That's because some of these activities are starting to get more in depth and not as general. But I'm going to talk about the young preschooler and older preschooler activities for this domain, because this is one that really, it depends a lot on the individual child and their previous experience with not just rules at home, but rules in, social settings, like a classroom, at a restaurant, at abuelo and at abuelo and abuela's house. It's at a friend's house. And, if they've only really experienced this at home, but and maybe they're in the 4 or 5 year old category, but you've never really sat and discussed the rules with the children, you just kind of, they'll do something and you say, oh, we don't do that. Like maybe, oh, we don't run in the house. And even with the older children too, maybe you've never really thought about sitting down to talk to your children about the rules, because as we get older, we kind of take for granted that children do not have the same knowledge, the same experience that we do. So for us, it's like, why are you running in the house? You could get hurt. You've been hurt before, so why are you running? And maybe you're telling them, no, stop running, don't run, stop running. and you've never really sat down to talk to them about why. Maybe you've just said, you know, you're gonna fall and get hurt, which is a reason, but you're not really going in depth with it. And another thing is stating it positively, which means, I mean, it's not necessarily like, you know, you're all happy when you say it. It just means that instead of using negative words like no or don't, you say things like, we use walking feet in the house, or you say, please walk. And that will go back to the whole overarching 3 general rules. But so yeah, this can be, the sitting down and making rules part can be important for the younger children especially, but maybe your older child, maybe you've never thought about sitting down and talking with them to come up with rules together. Maybe it's always been, you know, it's you, your partner, or you and a family member, or just you who has set these rules. So, and you know, it's easy not to have the time to just sit and talk with your kid. And when you do, you don't really want it to be about something not fun, about like rules. Because, you know, not only do they sometimes not want to hear it, but, you know, sometimes you don't want to go to that place where there's opposition between you guys, you and your child, especially if you don't get to see them a lot. You know, our parents work such long days, and they really want that time with their children to be quality. But, you know, even something like this can really be quality time. And you're definitely not a bad parent for using no or don't, or, you know, things like that, because trust me, even us teachers who have practiced for years and years to say things in a positive way, we slip up and we say, no, don't. And we just catch ourselves and we rephrase it and we make sure that, you know, we're doing better for next time. It's all about practice and self-awareness. And it doesn't make you a bad parent for not sitting down and talking with your children, or like making those rules with them, because like it's normal. It's pretty normal that, you know, the parents or the guardians, whoever, are the ones who set the rules, and, you know, it's just you think naturally the children are supposed to follow. But, you know, again, it's way more effective. And I'm not going to say 100%, because trust me, you're still going to have moments where you get that opposition, but it's a lot more effective in general, and also good to develop not only social emotional but cognitive reasoning skills, because they learn that there's a reason behind things. So I'm going to talk more about sitting down with your child and establishing rules in I believe Friday's video. Yes, in Friday's video. And that's something that I really again, I think it's so important, even if it's not something you would think to do. But for today, and let me read the paper because it's a lot more words than last week. So for social emotional development, the suggested activity for a young preschooler, so 3, maybe a young 4, make a few important and relevant rules that the child can learn. Teaching right and wrong comes through modeling, discussing what has happened or may happen, and talking about what we need to do to make sure that we are all safe, happy, and caring. And for an older preschooler, so 4 to 5, maybe a very young 6 if they're not yet in kindergarten, or even your kindergartner if this is something that you haven't really been able to establish before or talk about before. Talk to the child about why things are right or wrong. Otherwise, children may lose the deeper meaning and just avoid bad behaviors to avoid punishment. So I don't necessarily like to use the term bad behavior. Challenging behavior is something that you hear a lot. Something that even a lot of teachers don't realize is that a lot of what we call bad behavior or challenging behavior is actually age appropriate. It's unwanted, but it's normal for where that child is developmentally. A big one is, with toddlers, is biting. I mean, I'm not in the toddler class, so I won't go into that, but you know, that's an unwanted but developmentally appropriate behavior. Running inside, that's another one that, especially in preschool, is unwanted, but and not even, it can be challenging, but it's more unwanted than anything, and unless it gets to be a severe problem. But so running inside, that's one, especially in preschool. It's unwanted, but it's normal because this is when children are starting to really, you know, refine those gross motor skills. They have so much boundless energy and they constantly need to let it out. And especially in a school where they are expected to sit and be calm and quiet all day, and you know, as you know, teachers are being held more accountable for grades and things like that. Even in preschool, we have, you know, standardized testing in kindergarten. It pushes us to make the children sit and hold in that energy constantly, because, you know, we don't really have a choice when our higher ups are telling us, you know, well, you need to make sure your children know this, this, and this before they can move on. And I have a lot of feelings about this. Sorry, this isn't what that's about. Okay, so back to the rules. So again, I do want to talk about sitting and making these rules with your children, but you can start with some that you have established already. And this is where those 3 big rules come in. So be kind, be safe, care for your space. So what I do with my preschoolers when we get to the part in our first 6 weeks of school study is, during circle time and other times of the day when there's an adequate teachable moment, we sit and talk about, what does it mean to be kind? What kinds of things do we do to be kind? What kinds of things don't we do to be kind? Same with being safe. And the one that really needs a little more explanation is care for your space, because the concept of care, a child can demonstrate it, but they might not quite get it yet. So we talk about, like, well, you know, you need to take care of yourself so you stay healthy. And we also need to take care of where we live, where we go to school, our classroom. We need to take care of all these things so that they stay healthy too. And, you know, it's not fun to live somewhere or to go to school somewhere that's always a mess. And maybe your toys are laying out in a walkway, and you know, you trip over them or someone else trips and then they get hurt, and then we're not being healthy, we're not being safe. So a lot of those 3 rules are very interconnected, because you know, you'll often find overlap between any 2 or all 3 of them. So be kind. One of the things we talk about is using our words but not our hands. And we talk about what it means to have gentle hands, because you can say gentle hands, we use gentle hands, but what does that mean? Well, it means that, you know, we know that it hurts someone when we hit them, or you know, we have to use gentle feet because we know it hurts when we kick them. So if we're gentle, then we're not hurting someone. So, you know, you can maybe tap someone on the shoulder, or, you know, take their hand. Maybe you want to give them a hug. You should ask first, though. Always ask. We always tell them to ask before touching. to make sure that the other child is okay with it. So that also goes to being safe, because we can't be safe if our friends are hurting each other, right? So it's really about taking those bigger roles, and they don't have to be those 3. You can come up with your own, but taking those bigger roles and then breaking them down together. So when your child might forget one or forget, you can say, remember, stay safe, walk inside. So the big role is stay safe. The little role is walk inside. And why we want to do a big role, little role, is so that we can kind of help communicate what it means to be safe, to be kind, to take care of our space, and they can make those connections that maybe they'll encounter something new. And yeah, we've told them that we walk inside, but we've never told them that maybe, we walk on the sidewalk. But they see that other children have been hurt when they run on the sidewalk, so they think, oh, that's not being safe, and I shouldn't do it, right? And, we also have to talk about why it's okay or not okay why is it okay not to pinch our little sibling's hand? Why is it not okay to jump off a slide? But why is it okay for us to give hugs? Why is it okay if we clean up the table after a meal? So explaining those reasons. It's not okay to pinch our sibling's hand because it hurts them. And, when you get hurt, it doesn't feel good. Maybe it makes you feel sad. And we don't want to make each other feel sad. And that's not being kind. It's not nice, and we want to be nice. And, maybe you tell them, we clean up the table after dinner so that, we can wash the dishes and put them away, so that not only is the table really nice and it doesn't make us feel like a mess inside too. That kind of anxiety, that panicky feeling that you get inside when there's just so much stuff around you and you just want something nice and clean. And that way that our dinner dishes, that our plates and forks and knives and whatever else are ready for us the next time we need to make food. It's really just about exploring those reasons. Really, the most important part of this is that you are making sure that you're modeling what rules you're setting for your child. Because really, you, the parent, the guardian, the person that the child lives with, you're their first teacher. Because a child might, and this has actually happened to me, like multiple times. I've had children who are complete angels, like absolutely rigidly following rules in the classroom, and they're constantly picking up after themselves or even picking up after the other children. And then their parents, during conferences, they come to me and they're like, well, they're never like that at home. They never clean up at home. Well, it's not that it's your fault. It's that they might be getting a different experience in the classroom than they are at home. They might want to impress someone else in the classroom than who they already know at home. They already know that mom or dad or abuelo or abuela, that brother, sister, whoever, they already know that those people love them. And maybe they know that, you're so tired at the end of the day, and it's so much work to enforce those rules. Or maybe they see you doing something that you've told them not to do, and they think, well, it must not be a big deal at home. I mean, in school, the teacher is always like telling everyone what a good job I'm doing, following the rules. She's saying how much she likes it. I'm using my walking feet. And at home, maybe there's not enough recognition of what they're doing. And again, it's no judgment of your parenting style. That's never what it is. It's all about learning and just building a better relationship with your child. And it's not just parents, guardians, family. It's us teachers too. Because, sometimes we slip up and we don't model what rules we have for the children. And by modeling, I mean maybe it's a rule in your house that you wash your plate as soon as you're done, or at least put it in the sink. And, maybe you're not washing your plate, or your partner isn't, and your child sees you or your partner not doing that or leaving it to someone else. And, it's more important for them to emulate you than it is to listen to what you tell them. Because, again, you're their first teacher. You're not just their first teacher, but, you're the one that they're closest to. And they want to be like you because they love you. And, they watch what you do. They listen to the words you use. If you're telling your child, it's not nice to call someone names, but they overhear you on the phone talking about how so-and-so is a B word or whatever, that's what they're going to listen to, because that's what the person they care most about is doing. And, they look up to you. And it's the same for us teachers. And it doesn't mean that there's no room for mistakes. There's room for mistakes. The important thing is just being aware and trying. So if you haven't already, I would encourage you to sit down and you can even do this with your child. There'll be more of an in-depth video on that on Friday. But, sit down, think about what are the things that you just can't allow, and what are some things that, you don't necessarily want it, but when you are tired at the end of the day, that, it's not going to be something that wears you down even more to maybe ignore it for one night. Not to make it into a pattern, but, it's really true that you have to pick and choose your battles, and that goes for us in the classroom as well. What's non-harmful, what is bothering me on a personal level versus causing a problem for the entire classroom. Am I telling them not to scrape their forks on their plate because it bothers me or because it bothers everyone else? And there are some things that, you just can't deal with. I have sensory issues, so for me, that fork thing it's something I cannot function if I'm hearing that fork just scraping, because it just overloads my senses. But, if a child is saying, oh, you're so mean, teacher, and I don't like you, I know that it's not true, most likely, because, because earlier they didn't hate me. So I'm like, okay, it's okay if you feel that way. You can hate me. And, I acknowledge it and I move on. So, yeah, sit down and think of some of those things that, for your safety or your mental wellness, but most importantly, your children's safety. Maybe if you have pets, your pet safety. What are those things that they're not okay to do? What are your rules? And, maybe put them into categories, or just, you can even adopt the 3: be safe, be kind, be safe, care for your space. And, You know, this doesn't have to be a sit-down conversation even. It could be, but even if you have that sit-down conversation, it's still not going to quite stick yet because it needs to happen in the moment as well. So make sure you're using these opportunities to teach about why we do something and why maybe we don't. And, you know, maybe you'll find, you know, some things that you don't really know why you're saying not to do or to do. Maybe you'll find the things that, you know, as long as this side of the list is followed, I'm okay with letting go of a couple of these things every so often on this side of the list. You know, because part of this is also making it easier for you as a parent or guardian or even a teacher to get through the day, to make sure you're really instilling the important things that you want your child to learn and not saying things like, because I said so or because I told you so. You want them to understand why. So I really hope this helped you, and I will talk to you again Thursday. Bye.